Good. So can I ask a question about a revolving fund? Do they still have to account for those monies that are in the fund and, you know, at the end of the year say, okay, we spent $10,000 on this, and or is it a slush fund?
I don't know what the accounting rules are. I know that they have control of the money, and I don't know
So
what...
is this a question that we can have answered by town meeting? Ellen?
It's absolutely established by law that it must be reported by each department. They need to report that by town meeting. Most of them actually hand a report to the moderator for that, and it also appears in the town report that was just printed, John. Okay. So absolutely, the statute, I think it's Chapter 90, Section 6, each that creates revolving funds makes it very clear about how they must.
Okay, thank you.
And there are limits on them in the
Okay.
And I'm also sure that when the town has its audit done, that the auditors consider the town as an entire entity, so that would be included in the financial statement audit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, capital requests.
Actually, Rose, I think John is going to talk to that.
Okay, that's
So,
then I'm done, because I'm sure someone will be here for the...
yes.
I saw it.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, Rose, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
A couple things I'd like to add, just in listening to Rose talk. We certainly don't want to put anybody on the spot tonight, but again, we're here to find out what are the details behind some of the articles and their positioning on the warrant. Another thing that, as Rose was discussing, what it takes to put forth the budget. Another thing that I anticipate coming out of this is any time we as citizens in the town of Westford, through our own participation or through other venues, hear what it takes to run this town. I mean, Rose mentioned it's like running a $100 million business. This is a big deal. We've got a lot of people in town. We have very motivated employees and lay volunteers in town that are very intelligent, very well intended, and anytime we can see what it takes, the level of effort to run this outfit, this is a big deal. And you know, we can every day show our appreciation to those, whether they're compensated for their efforts or not. This is a big deal. So anyhow, I wanted to throw that in as well. And we have John Cunningham, who's here, and I understand is going to talk about the capital request.
Sure.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Well, Rose gave a pretty good outline of just the budgeting process, but the capital planning committee was formed late this previous year. We had our first meeting on the 29th of December, and we met approximately weekly for several months, till March. And we met with all of the department heads. We brought them in, and we were looking at a $7.8 million capital request when we first looked at it. And that wasn't just this year, it was every year. And a lot of it was repetitive. So we had all the department heads in there, and the members of the committee, Jody Ross was there, she's a member, Board of Selectmen is represented, Finance Committee is represented, the Capital Planning, the Master Planning Committee, and then the school board, also the school superintendent's in. So we had a good wide range of people working on this. We were given a target of 1.5 million max to work toward. And as we interviewed everybody, we started getting into priorities. There were a lot of priority ones. And so we said, each department, you come back and you prioritize within your own department, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what they did. And without exception, we got good cooperation from all the department heads. It was a true give and take process, and we worked through that. Now the results, I'll kind of go down through each one of them and let you know kind of what the going in position was, what came out, and kind of what's in there. Technical portion, Chris McClure and his group, most of that, his requirement was changing computers, updating the computer technology, and includes the schools as well as the town department. His initial request was $440,000, and through his own initiative, he was able to make some adjustments, and he came in, and then it was the 300, and now it's down at 260,000.
Significant.
And so he's been able to reduce the interval and kind of reschedule some of the requirements. Now, most of his requirements, a lot of his requirements are recurring, but the way we're working it is we're going to revisit these every year. And when we kick something down the road, we want to make sure that these are identified and they carry over, and we can address them in each succeeding year. The police was next. The police came in with an initial requirement of about $146,000. But the big ticket item was replacing 3 cruisers. And we asked the chief some questions about mileage, usage, how many cruisers, and this sort of thing. Being limited somewhat in time as we went through this, we didn't really get down to the mileage, the time, everything else. But he had pretty good justification, I think, and we reduced his requirement from 3 cruisers down to 2. And we're going to revisit the cruiser issue next year and say, okay, this, we're in a process, or at least the departments seem to have gotten into a process where they say, okay, I need 3 every year. But we want to look at the basis for that requirement, whether it's the hours on the cruiser, the mileage, the maintenance cost, those types of things. So we're going to be looking at that in a lot more detail over the succeeding years, and this is going to be addressed in a year-to-year basis. So we reduced that from 3 to 2. They had a grant. The radios, well, let me get to the vest. The vest, the requirement for the vest, $5,600, is basically for 4 vests. And it costs about $1,400 a piece. Now, these are not, just to give you an idea, these are not the flak vests that we wore in Vietnam. These are a little tighter fitting, they're personal. These guys use them. They wear them a lot, and they're not a hand-me-down type thing. And so these are a recurring replacement item. Now, there is some grant money that's a potential. We have a potential for getting some grant money for that. We went ahead and put that in the budget. If they get some grant money, that may defray some of the cost. Now, it may be for this year, but it could be 10 next year, 15 the year after. Depends on which policemen need their vest replaced. And they have a lifetime expectancy of 5 years. Now, we're going to continue to kind of look at that a little bit more closely. The other item was $30-some thousand, I think, for the radios. This is a change from analog to digital. This gives them more flexibility in talking to other, other town or other police departments and whatnot. They did get a base station grant, which was worth $40-something thousand. Now, we did kind of push back and say we're not necessarily getting these digital radios just because we got the base station. And the answer to that was no. This represents 20 of the radios. They're going to want 20 more next year, but we're going to ask a little bit more about why you need a total of 40. How do you use them? How do you recharge them? Just in those types of questions. Those are the ones that we're asking just about every department. How do you justify it? Just not because it's a recurring requirement. Now, moving on to the fire department. The fire department had an initial request of $3.3 million. They were putting a lot of pumpers in there. They wanted to replace a lot of their old equipment. We got that down to $543,000, and the way we did that, we said, okay, we know you've got some equipment out there that's, maybe a little bit approaching unsafe. We did talk to them about maintenance, especially in light of what happened down in Boston. They guaranteed, they told me they're doing a better job in maintenance, and I believe that. We finally narrowed it down to replacing one engine. This is a 1990 engine. It's engine number 1. It is in bad state, needs to be repaired. One of the things we did talk to the chief about was the usage of the equipment, whether or not you respond to everything with a fire engine and an ambulance. And he was looking into saying, okay, they do have another vehicle, they kind of call it a chase vehicle, so you don't have to go take the fire engine to every emergency call. And that's going to reduce, I think, your use of the fire engine. So that was one of the issues. So that's $465,000.